Hello and welcome back to New Wave Global. I am here with another video on the heat waves that have engulfed the entire planet, leading us to the moment where we're living in the hottest years of human history. Across the globe, something extraordinary is happening. From the scorched plains of Arizona to the cracked riverbeds of Italy's Po Valley, from the sweltering streets of Delhi to elderly residents trapped in Paris apartments. The world is heating up fast, and at least in my lifetime, I've not seen such kind of heat. I studied in London and I was there recently. It was extremely hot. I mean, Italy is becoming unbearable. Parts of Italy, especially Tuscany, and the Po Valley I just mentioned, are just unbelievably hot. What exactly is happening? And that is what we are going to explore, because this is not just an isolated event. And this isn't just summer. Yes, summer is beautiful in the northern hemisphere, and for us and those born in southern hemisphere or the global south, it was always a bit of an issue. But it's not just a hot spell. This is a planetary fever, and it's climbing. The past few months have shown us that extreme heat is no longer a warning about the future. It's the reality that we all are living in today. And it is going to become worse as climate scientists, as more and more research shows. But let's go back to the earlier years. July 2023 was officially the hottest month in recorded human history. And 2024 also broke records in places that were never built for this kind of heat. And this is what is going to affect the way we work, the way we live, the way we produce, and the way human life is organized around the planet. So what are these heat waves? I think it's important to explore. We read a lot about them in headlines and we hear about them. And let's talk about what they are and why they're getting worse. And what all of this tells us about the state of our planet and our collective future. Because trust me, this is not a random event. It is actually going to be a serious issue. So what exactly is a heat wave? A heat wave is a prolonged period of abnormally high temperatures, usually relative to the climate of a particular region. But the definition varies, of course. What's considered extreme in London, for example, is different from what's extreme in Karachi or Phoenix, Arizona. Regardless of geography, heat waves are dangerous, deadly, in fact. They strain the body's ability to cool itself, especially with high humidity levels. When the wet bulb temperature crosses 35 degrees centigrade, even a healthy person sitting in the shade can die after a few hours. In cities amid the built environments, it's even worse. The urban heat island effect traps heat in concrete, metal, and asphalt. In poorer neighborhoods with less tree cover, temperatures can be 5 to 7 degrees Celsius hotter than wealthier areas just a few blocks away. And that's why heat waves are also not equitable. Unfortunately, the disadvantaged and the poor communities suffer more. So what's happening now? Let's take a closer look at what the heat looks like on the ground. So let me give you some examples. In Phoenix, Arizona, the temperature in July 2023 hit 43 degrees or 110 Fahrenheit consecutively for 3 days. Never was it the case before. People were dying from heat strokes and burns caused just by touching pavements. In Las Vegas, it hit 47 degrees in late July last year, matching its all-time record. In Palm Springs in California, it reached 50 degrees centigrade, leading to power outages across the city. In Rome, Italy, one of the most beautiful places in the world, the heat soared to 44 degrees centigrade, and in Athens it was so hot that the Acropolis had to be shut down for tourists during the day hours. In Madrid, Spain, temperatures crossed 40 degrees for several days in a row, making July 2023 and 2024 the hottest months. Again in Italy, Sicily recorded 47 degrees near the town of Catania, just shy of Europe's highest ever temperature recorded in 2021, which was 48.8 degrees centigrade. And India, Pakistan, the temperatures have been soaring. Jacobabad, a city in Pakistan, had temperatures go up to 50 degrees, causing school closures, blackouts. In fact, Jacobabad has been called the hottest city on the planet. In China, cities like Beijing, Chongqing, Zhengzhou reported heat over 40 degrees centigrade, with infrastructure buckling and public transit suspended at times. What's chilling in this scenario is that this isn't an anomaly anymore. It's now a global pattern. And so it's becoming a new normal. It's setting a new pattern. So what are the scientists saying? The climate scientists who undertake such important research, and the experts who are studying that, and the organizations which are concerned with this, NASA, NOAA, the European Climate Change Service, say that in the past 9 years have been the hottest on record. July 2023 or months in 2024 weren't just the hottest month ever recorded. In 2025 now, again heat waves are on the rise. In fact, the temperatures have been highest in 120,000 years. Globally, the average surface temperature was 1.5 degrees centigrade above the pre-industrial levels, the very threshold climate scientists warned us not to cross. In Paris Agreement, that is what was agreed. So how does it all happen? Because our atmosphere is saturated with greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide from burning fossil fuels, oil and gas. The gases trap heat, turning our planet into a slow cooking oven. When heat traps exist, that is how the planetary fever, gets high and high. So let's be clear, not everyone feels the heat in the same way, which is another matter of concern. In New York, studies have shown that neighborhoods like Harlem or parts of the Bronx are several degrees hotter than Central Park due to less green space, older buildings, and systemic neglect, which we see in communities where low-income residents live. In Lahore, Pakistan, many families don't have access to reliable electricity, let alone air conditioning. Outdoors workers collapse on job sites. Children faint in classrooms. In Nairobi, Kenya, Africa, Jakarta, capital of Indonesia, Sao Paulo in Brazil, millions are living in informal settlements without water, fans, and sometimes even without shade. And this is not just a climate issue. Yes, it is of course climate change, but it's also a justice emergency. And this is what we understand by climate justice, how changes in climate are being handled or faced by different communities and people on different sort of income levels of advantage or entitlements. But here's the hope. We have choices. It need not be like this. We can do something. In the short term, cities, for example, can install reflective roofs and build shaded public areas. Tree cover has to be expanded in heat vulnerable neighborhoods. And emergency cooling centers, especially in low-income zones, have to be set up. Mandate rest breaks for outdoor workers need to be set up. In the long term, we must, of course, phase out fossil fuels, coal, oil and gas at record speed. And then we have to fund, the world has to fund climate resilience in global south. And of course, the governments have to be pressurized to implement strong climate policies and hold the corporations accountable for greenhouse gas emissions and greenwashing, because they often lie and hide things. But conserving and adapting is important because we need a systemic, system-level change. Not isolated patchwork, but a more holistic global strategy which individual countries have to implement. And therefore, we have to remind that the heat waves are not just seasonal nuisance, they are now the new front lines of the climate crisis. They collapse healthcare systems, they kill crops, they kill people, they expose inequality, and the temperatures are getting worse and worse. Also, what kind of a world are we building? That's a question that emerges every summer. Because this just is not about hot summer or temperature. It's also about whether we respond with urgency or keep pretending that we can adapt indefinitely. We have a lot of time. We don't. If we don't cool the planet will keep heating us and heating our buildings and our pavements and our roads. Science is clear. Researchers are clear. The warnings are over. Now this is the time for action and consequences. The climate is not going to wait for us, neither should we. We have to act. It's a climate emergency and it is a global call for climate justice. Therefore, when we read stories about what is happening in Paris or Italy or Pakistan or India, this is not an isolated heat wave. It is linked to the larger crises that we are facing and encountering. And the sooner we do something about it, the better it is for all of us, for our futures, especially the younger generations who will have to live in extremely hot or at least abnormal weather conditions. I'll be back with more. Until then, goodbye.